Hello, my name is Arnav Kulkarni. I am a sophomore at UMD, and I am part of SGC Science and Global Change. Um, and that is with Professor Holtz and Professor Merck. And my major is computer science. So for my practicum project, as you can see, I took a class at UMD. It's called CPSS 340, and it is named Infrastructure and Society. So in this class, we take a in-depth look at infrastructure that um, is here at College Park, and as well as our own assessment communities. Uh, yeah, so we learned a lot of different things about infrastructure that we hadn't known before. Uh, Prior to taking this class. We look at, systems. We look at hard versus soft infrastructure. We look at backup systems. We look at how, like the condition that these infrastructure are in. Uh, and yeah, so we do a lot of analysis in this class. And one way we do these analysis is through journals. So every week we have at least two journals. And here we just note uh, we just note our observations, and these observations can come from different senses, such as visual or smell or what we hear. We just note it down. So on the left is an example of one of my journals that I did. So this one was a visual one, which was, I think, the very first journal that we did. We looked at, we went around College Park and we were asked to list down maybe like 100 things that we've, uh, you know, 100 different types of infrastructure that we saw throughout our day, and the condition that it was in. And so, when I was doing this journal, I, noticed a lot of things that I initially hadn't thought of as infrastructure prior to taking this class. And so, yeah, that's what you gain out of the class. A big thing is you just learn a lot about infrastructure that you learn how much like depth there is about like into infrastructure. Um, so yeah, so and then in the right side, we connected emotions with infrastructure and how infrastructure can either make us feel, happy, or it'll make us devastated in ways, just based on the condition and the situation and the accessibility. So for example, another journal that we did was we looked at accessibility on campus, and uh, we've seen how there are parts on campus where accessibility for disabled people is bad. Uh, and we've highlighted this, and we've, done a lot of analysis on the good parts and bad parts of campus in regard to accessibility. So, yeah, we did a lot of journals. Um, they were very helpful in understanding infrastructure and the design behind it and why it was implemented. And like I said before, it helped us note things that we hadn't seen on campus before. We also had guest speakers. We had, I think, around 4 or 5 guest speakers. One of the important ones that I thought was Dr. Smeller. She came in, she was creating a device that is able to pick up, like, it's able to note objects based on what the smell is. So, like, it's never been done before, surprisingly. But Dr. Smeller is designing different cells that are able to um, recognize specific smell, and this could be very helpful in infrastructure because things like carbon monoxide are, very hazardous, and if it's inhaled, you will probably die. So it's important that we have this device to make sure that when people are working with infrastructure or people are like, you know, constructing things, uh, they are in safe conditions. And she came in to talk to us about that. And then the second one on the right hand side, we see uranium. So we talked about the nuclear waste. We actually attended a nuclear waste convention online. So what we did was we listened to a bunch of stakeholders in different states, and then we noted um, the different problems that arise based off of nuclear waste. And, we had a lot of different guest speakers. So you were able to learn a lot about how infrastructure is connected to different majors as well. So Dr. Smaller is an engineering major. So yeah, and so my personal project. So that's the third thing that we did. So we had our own personal project that we had to do. We had to analyze um, our own city and or location. For me, I chose Old Ellicott City, and we had to analyze the infrastructure that was inside of it. So basically, I'll just show you what work I've done and what I will be doing in the future. So yeah, so Old Ellicott City is what I chose. Old Ellicott City is a very historic town. It's known for being home to a lot of local businesses and shops and restaurants, art galleries, and it also is home to a very important transportation infrastructure, which is the B&O Railroad, which is now a museum, and it is also home to Patapsco River Valley. And then, so, like I said, in the class, we look at different infrastructure and we see what potential problems might come out of it. And so, Old Ellicott City is known for its floods. If you have ever heard of Old Ellicott City on the news, you probably know that it's always flooding. And so, I wanted to, you know, uh, try to find a way to prevent that from happening in the future or reduce the impacts. So, here I say one of the problems that we were asked to analyze was noise. And so, because of the floods, storm runoff ends up hitting a lot of the buildings, which ends up leading to a lot of noise that disturb people. Uh, more specifically, it disturbs a lot of people that are in lower income communities. So we see there's a social justice issue right there. And this is because of the way that the transportation infrastructure was designed. If you see here in this picture in the middle, you can see that this Old Ellicott City and the picture on the left, Old Ellicott City is basically one road, one very long road right here. Um, so, and there's a lot of impervious surfaces that cause the city to flood a lot. And you see there's a river and a bunch of um, valleys, I mean, a bunch of rivers and streams that border the roads. So whenever a bad storm happens, what happens is the rivers end up overflowing and going into the street, the one main street, and then everyone gets affected because of that. So that is how noise can be an issue because of the runoff. And then also the roads are very narrow and they're right next to the buildings, which also causes noise issues for residents. Yeah. And then again, another problem, equitable access. In Howard County and Old Ellicott City, more than 2,000 people don't have bus transportation. So that is an issue that uh, is related to infrastructure, transportation infrastructure. And there's a lack of transportation to travel throughout the city. As you can see, a lot of people need to have cars. There's rarely any room for bikes. You can see here in the picture there's a bike lane, but cars end up taking most of it, so it's not really accessible for everyone. And then streets, again, like I said, are very narrow and small, so yeah, there's equitable access right there because not everyone is able to use the roads unless they have cars uh or a vehicle. And yeah, and then we looked at different questions, driver card questions. So basically, what these were are like these are what we look at. Like there's technology, there's history, uh, there's like we tackle questions based on uh what like based on the technological. Like here, I said one question I tackled was what kind of technologies and machines enable it to be produced and maintained. So we're talking about infrastructure here. And so, as you can see, Old Ellicott City is very close to BWI Airport. So advancements in aviation technology and construction of runways are large cause of noise pollution. And then in regards to lack of sidewalk in Ellicott City, like I mentioned before, this is due to how roads were laid out and spaced out. So here we look at the infrastructure again, um, based on technology, and the transportation. So yeah, future work I'll be doing is I will be looking at Old Ellicott City and finding potential ways to prevent these floods from happening. Doing more research, staying involved with the local residents as well as the policymakers that have to do with these kind of things. So yeah, this is just a brief overview of what I did at CPSS. Um, yeah, so thank you.